Hey, hi, and hello. Welcome back for another one. Today we're going to be talking about one of the greatest jazz records of this entire century. American free jazz saxophonist and contributing member of Los Angeles' West Coast Get Down, Kamasi Washington, has notoriously made a name for himself in the past decade too, both his contribution to the acclaimed 2015 hip-hop album To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, as well as his own critically acclaimed jazz fusion LP in 2015, also by the name of The Epic. Since these achievements, Kamasi Washington has continued to linger in the background, even releasing another welcomed, though not nearly as acclaimed record in 2018 with Heaven and Earth. Upon 2018's Heaven and Earth not receiving the same recognition and praise as The Epic, the world seemed to lose Kamasi Washington for almost 5 years before he finally returned with one of the most moving jazz records of the century, Fearless Movement. Fearless Movement is everything everyone loved about Kamasi Washington his whole career and more. It features ambitious jazz instrumentations denouncing the slower, more soulful counterparts of the spiritual jazz greats like John Coltrane and Pharoah Sanders, and instead creates emotion and movement through a storm of sounds. Pounding drums and alternating time signatures trades place constantly with Kamasi Washington's otherworldly saxophone skills, running up and down scale after scale without even thinking about it, almost emulating the swagger and speed of Eddie Van Halen, who obviously became prominent in the 80s with his shredding guitar solos. Except Kamasi Washington does this kind of style on his saxophone. Not only does Fearless Movement incorporate some fearless shots at a crazy storm of jazz music, but he later on even features guest appearances on vocals such as from brothers Taj Austin and Ross Austin, delivering possibly my single favorite hip-hop feature of the entire year of 2024 so far. They deliver a long section with conscientious lyrics about class, racism, and everything in between. Is something I seriously wasn't expecting going into this album, as I had merely thought this would be an instrumental jazz record, but I sat here in awe when I did hear it. Another great feature was at the hands of BJ the Chicago Kid on the 7th track, Together, featuring smoother, soulful vocals from the feature, which unsurprisingly works very well with a jazz backing instrumental. Every song on this album, whether I felt more neutral about it or transversely extremely enthusiastic about it, I must amend for its ability to deliver a new idea to each song while still letting the same instruments take charge with improvisational journeys. There's fast points, slow points, joyous points, anxious points, climaxes, and troughs. This album truly is like a musical journey through life, fitting for such a talented visionary, no pun intended. Every idea on the album comes to a wrap when the final track takes the high points of every corner of this album and mashes it into one great finale. Prologue. Prologue kicks off with a floaty, ethereal few notes on the synths before kicking into the album's iconic punchy fast drums, already inducing a feeling of hope and ambition going forward. The signature saxophone is correspondingly layered on top, which seamlessly flies across the whole array of different possible notes and scales like nothing. As the song progresses, the saxophone can audibly elevate higher and higher in power and emotion before reaching an absolute climax right after the middle point of the song, where Kamasi Washington takes inspiration from legendary guitar prodigy Jimi Hendrix, notorious for imitating screams and cries on his guitar. Rather, in the ultimate climax of this entire album, Kamasi Washington hits a high note I didn't even know was possible, imitating a gut-wrenching cry out for help before the music resolves to a simple drum and bass beat, ending off the entire album with nothing but a cold chill and silence to reflect on the absolute power of what had just been played. It was Prologue that single-handedly raised my rating for this album an entire half point, and it was Prologue that gave me the rare moments of having to physically sit in silence for a good few minutes just to process what I had just heard. No other final track and no other final performance like that could have better wrapped up the entire album's force, virtue, and overall power. Fearless Movement is an experience that can go head to head with the absolute greatest jazz albums of all time very easily, and I couldn't recommend it enough for that reason, which is why I'm going to have to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Whether one enjoys the sounds this record puts out or not, no one can deny the absolute talent that went into its creation.